Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Today I'll talk about 4 U.S. presidents: William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, and Woodrow Wilson. William McKinley was the 25th U.S. president. He served from 1897 to 1901. Born in Niles, Ohio in 1843, McKinley briefly attended Allegheny College and was teaching in a country school when the Civil War broke out. Enlisting as a private in the Union Army, he was mustered out at the end of the war as a brevet major of volunteers. He studied law, opened an office in Canton, Ohio, and married Ida Saxton, daughter of a local banker. During his 14 years in the House, he became the leading Republican tariff expert, giving his name to the measure enacted in 1890. The next year, he was elected governor of Ohio, serving 2 terms. When McKinley became president, the Depression of 1893 had almost run its course, and with it the extreme agitation over silver. Deferring action on the money question, he called Congress into special session to enact the highest tariff in history. Not prosperity, but foreign policy dominated McKinley's administration. Reporting the stalemate between Spanish forces and revolutionaries in Cuba, newspapers screamed that a quarter of the population was dead and the rest suffering acutely. Public indignation brought pressure upon the president for war. Unable to restrain Congress or the American people, McKinley delivered his message of neutral intervention in April 1898. Congress thereupon voted 3 resolutions tantamount to a declaration of war for the liberation and independence of Cuba. In the 100-Day War, the United States destroyed the Spanish fleet outside Santiago Harbor in Cuba, seized Manila in the Philippines, and occupied Puerto Rico. His second term, which had begun auspiciously, came to a tragic end in September 1901. He was standing in a receiving line at the Buffalo Pan American Exposition when a deranged anarchist shot him twice. He died 8 days later. He was married to Ida Saxton McKinley. Theodore Roosevelt was the 26th U.S. president. He served 2 terms from 1901 to 1909. Roosevelt's youth differed sharply from that of the log cabin presidents. He was born in New York City in 1858 into a wealthy family, but he too struggled against ill health, and in his triumph he became an advocate of the strenuous life. With the assassination of President McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, not quite 43, became the youngest president in the nation's history. He brought new excitement and power to the presidency as he vigorously led Congress and the American public toward the progressive reforms and strong foreign policy. As president, Roosevelt held the ideal that the government should be the great arbiter of the conflicting economic forces in the nation, especially between capital and labor, guaranteeing justice to each and dispensing favors to none. Roosevelt steered the United States more actively into world politics. He liked to quote a favorite proverb: "Speak softly and carry a big stick." He won the Nobel Peace Prize for mediating the Russo-Japanese War, reached a gentleman's agreement on immigration with Japan, and sent the Great White Fleet on a goodwill tour of the world. Leaving the presidency in 1909, Roosevelt went on an African safari, then jumped back into politics. In 1912, he ran for president on a progressive ticket. To reporters, he once remarked that he felt as fit as a bull moose, the name of his new party. While campaigning in Milwaukee, he was shot in the chest by a fanatic. Roosevelt soon recovered, but his words at the time would have been applicable at the time of his death in 1919. "No man has had a happier life than I have led. Happier life in every way." His spouse was Edith Kermit Cardau Roosevelt. William Howard Taft was 27th U.S. president. He served from 1909 to 1913. Born in 1857, the son of a distinguished judge, he graduated from Yale and returned to Cincinnati to study and practice law. He rose in politics through Republican judiciary appointments, through his own competence and availability, and because he once wrote facetiously, he always had his placed the right side up when offices were falling. His route to the White House was via administrative posts, President McKinley sent him to the Philippines in 1900 as chief civil administrator. Sympathetic toward the Filipinos, he improved the economy, built roads and schools, and gave the people at least some participation in government. Taft recognized that his techniques would differ from those of his predecessor. Unlike Roosevelt, Taft did not believe in the stretching of presidential powers. He once commented that Roosevelt ought more often to have admitted the legal way of reaching the same ends. Taft alienated many liberal Republicans, who later formed the Progressive Party, by defending the Payne-Aldrich Act, which unexpectedly continued high tariff rates. A trade agreement with Canada, which Taft pushed through Congress, would have pleased Eastern advocates of a low tariff, but the Canadians rejected it. He further antagonized progressives by holding his Secretary of the Interior accused of failing to carry out Roosevelt's conservation policies. In the angry progressive onslaught against him, little attention was paid to the fact that his administration initiated 80 antitrust suits and that Congress submitted to the states amendments for a federal income tax and the direct elections of senators. A postal savings system was established, and the Interstate Commerce Commission was directed to set railroad rates. In 1912, when the Republicans renominated Taft, Roosevelt bolted the party to lead the Progressive, thus guaranteeing the election of Woodrow Wilson. Taft, free of the presidency, served as professor of law at Yale until President Harding made him Chief Justice of the United States, a position he held until just before his death in 1930. To Taft, the appointment was his greatest honor. He wrote, "I don't remember that I ever was president." He was married to Helen Herron Taft. Woodrow Wilson was the 28th U.S. president. He served 2 terms from 1913 to 1921. Wilson had seen the frightfulness of war. He was born in Virginia in 1856, the son of a Presbyterian minister who during the Civil War was a pastor in Augusta, Georgia, and during Reconstruction a professor in the charged city of Columbia, South Carolina. Like Roosevelt before him, Woodrow Wilson regarded himself as the personal representative of the people. "No one but the president," he said, "seems to be expected to look out for the general interests of the country." He developed a program of progressive reform and asserted international leadership in building a new world order. In 1917, he proclaimed American entrance into World War I, a crusade to make the world safe for democracy. He was nominated for president at the 1912 Democratic Convention and campaigned on a program called The New Freedom, which stressed individualism and states' rights. In the three-way election, he received only 42% of the popular vote, but an overwhelming electoral vote. Massive American efforts slowly tipped the balance in favor of the Allies. Wilson went before Congress in January 1918 to enunciate American war aims, the 14 points, the last of which would establish a general association of nations, affording mutual guarantees of political independence and territorial integrity to great and small states alike, he said. After the Germans signed the armistice in November 1918, Wilson went to Paris to try to build an enduring peace. He later presented to the Senate the Versailles Treaty containing the Covenant of the League of Nations and asked, "They reject it and break the heart of the world." But the election of 1918 had shifted the balance in Congress to the Republicans. By 7 votes, the Versailles Treaty failed in the Senate. The president, against the warnings of his doctors, had made a national tour to mobilize public sentiment for the treaty. Exhausted, he suffered a stroke and nearly died. Tenderly nursed by his second wife, Edith Bolling Galt, he lived until 1924. His first wife was Ellen Axon Wilson, and second wife Edith Bolling Galt Wilson. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Prezi signing out. Bye.